This is the Red Dice Diaries podcast with John and Hannah.
Hi.
And today I'm hijacking the episode, taking John out into the garden to sit by a campfire.
That'll be the crackling you can hear in the background, probably.
And I'm going to be trying to get him to help me out with an idea that isn't entirely fully formed, but I thought discussing the idea would be a good thing for the start of the episode.
That's right. This might be a first for an RPG podcast. I don't know. I'm sure someone's probably done it before. But we're literally going to try and construct a random table while we're doing this episode. And hopefully, if we get something good at the end of it, we'll post the finished table in a blog post so you can have a look at it, see what you think.
So we were watching the other day, I think it was MasterChef or something similar. No, it was Great British Sewing Bee.
That's right, yeah, it was, yeah.
And we watch a lot of those sorts of shows, although usually they're about cooking.
Because I love cooking programmes.
It occurred to me how, like, at the start of each episode, they'll do a rundown of the contestants and give you, like, a 1 or 2 sentence thing that sums up a bit about that person and their background. And
normally on MasterChef it involves some sort of relative who's like going to be proud of them or is going through some hard time. Bit of a sort of personal interest, sort of like public sympathy sort of deal, yeah.
Indeed. And it struck me that it would be quite useful for me in my Star Trek game to have a chart that gave me little bits of background like that for red shirts, and that it'd probably be similarly useful in Band of Blades, where you've got loads and loads of the rookies and the soldiers that you need to keep track of, as a way to flesh those out.
All right, well, hold on a second. Just in case there's anyone who has been, like, living in, like, the Mariana Trench for, like, the last, like, 20 years or whatever, what's a red shirt?
Oh, red shirts are the minor characters in Star Trek which normally get killed off. In the RPG that I'm running, they are any NPC who isn't a player character or important to the story, and therefore they're like 1 hit point characters. But it is nice to just flesh them out that little bit.
So like extras, effectively?
Yeah, extras. That's a really good term for it, actually, for across all games.
Not just a pretty face, you see.
But yeah, it struck me that it'd be quite a useful chart to have.
Yeah. So from what I understand, because we've chatted about this a little bit, we're going to be trying to put together this table as part of this episode. Then, as I've said, if we get something good, we'll post it up afterwards. So, have you got any idea about what sort of things we're going to have in this table? What sort of headings we're going to have on it?
Well, I think the first one should be a descriptor. So things like old, young, fat, thin.
So this is describing the characters as well as giving them a background, yeah?
Yeah, just so that we end up with 2 or 3 sentences at most. Preferably just 1 sentence out of this.
Also,
it
like
gives
a
you
Mad
a
Lib.
little way to... Yeah, exactly. So, other descriptive terms.
Let's see. So you've got old, young, fat, thin, tall, short, stocky, lithe. Are these just physical, or can there be a lot other?
Again, yeah, others are good too.
Confident, nervous, brash, fearful / cowardly, whichever term you prefer. Prudent.
I'm going to add pretty and ugly onto the physical ones.
Okay.
Courageous.
Yeah. Intelligent, cautious.
Okay. So we could go on with descriptors all day.
Yeah, of course we could. Yeah.
So next one will be...
Well, I was going to say, before we go on to the next one, it might, if we were doing it as like a Mad Lib, like for instance, there's a game Numenera. Well, you design your character, and you design your character as I am a something that somethings. So you might be like, I am a brave warrior who has magnetic powers. So maybe it might be an idea to think of how we want to phrase the results from the table in like a sentence.
Okay, so the next word I was going to go with was from.
Also, where they come from.
As in local, distant
lands,
traveller, city,
country, obviously.
Country. I want to say shore, but I don't think shore's the word. Coastline.
Coast, yeah.
Island.
Spaceship.
Now, obviously, these are things I'm looking fantasy here as I'm writing these, even though I'm thinking of my Star Trek game.
Okay.
But again, these are things that you can mess about
Mountains.
with. Yeah.
You can put all your different types of terrain in there, like swamp, desert.
Yeah, and when I do this Star Trek wise, it'll be so yeah. Let's have a fantasy list and a sci-fi list. Colonies.
Space.
Homeworld.
Ship.
Ship raised. Alien world, as in raised on a world that's not your species' homeworld.
But what's it, like belter, like if they're raising like an asteroid belt or something?
Belter. Mines, they're always an interesting place to come from.
Okay.
What they are if your name's Carrot.
Okay, so what do we want to have for the final sort of column then? Or the next column?
Or the next column. Who loves or hates. Maybe flip a coin there to decide which one. And, well, there's a million things you could put in there. Food. Drunkenness.
Monsters / aliens.
Monsters. Aliens.
You could obviously have a particular like fantasy or alien race that they particularly don't like.
Mm-hmm. Or do like.
Space travel.
Let's go with travel.
Yeah.
Magic or tech. Dr. McCoy hates the tech.
Yeah.
Doesn't trust them transporters. Couple of things to go on there. Fighting, diplomacy.
Violence. I suppose you've got fighting already though.
Quiet missions. I can see some characters getting quite irked with that. Especially red shirt types. They want to be in the action. And then we get to like the sort of more, I suppose, daft one, which was going to be because...
The only problem I can see with that is
that becomes a bit more difficult.
Because it depends on what you've got there. Unless we keep it very generic. So like, how about because of an incident during childhood?
Yeah, that's the kind of thing I was thinking of.
Because that's how they were raised. Trauma from a previous mission. Okay, so what else could we have?
Because it reminds them of their lost love. Because that's always a good one for sticking some extra, stick the dagger in when the NPCs die in there.
Something that happened to a friend or a family member.
What else could we come up with?
They were mistakenly accused of something.
Because of a misunderstanding.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a sort of a vague starter for it.
Yeah.
And we can come back and like add some more to it if we want to fill up a bit of time. So that's a bit of a starter for it. But we're this would be a good point, I think, because we've now got like half a dozen or so to go through and see if it works. Like see if we can effectively come up with a couple of little characters on the fly.
Okay.
So I should go grab some dice. So the first card is the one with the descriptors on. We've got about 8 each of those. So if you would roll me 2d8 into this handy little pot. That is a 5 and a 6. So we have a short, intelligent guy.
Okay.
Who is from... Are we going sci-fi or fantasy?
Let's go fantasy.
So yeah, D8 again.
It's a 1.
It's a 1. He's local to...
So a short, intelligent guy who's local to the area. Okay.
And he loves or hates. So roll me 1 and tell me whether it's odd or even.
It is even.
Even, so he hates it.
So he's a local, short, intelligent guy who hates 6.
Fighting.
So he's a short, intelligent guy who hates fighting. So why does he hate fighting then?
Because... We've only got 6 of these, so just roll one of the 6s.
Oh, there's a 6 in there.
Yeah.
Okay. It's a 1.
It's a 1 because of an incident during his childhood.
Okay, so it's our first attempt at using this table. We've got a short, intelligent guy who is local to the area the campaign's taking place in, who hates fighting because of an incident that happened during his childhood. So do you want to try another one, or?
Indeed, yeah.
Might as well do a couple, haven't we?
You grab them.
Okay.
You read them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, double 8s. What's the last thing on each of those lists?
Okay, so we've got an ugly, cautious person.
Who?
From? Who's local.
I'll roll again.
So what'd you get?
A 3.
From the city. So an ugly, cautious person from the city. So see if he loves or hates, odd or even.
He loves.
Okay.
Number 4.
Travel.
Loves to travel.
So, an ugly, cautious person from the city who loves to travel. Because we're on a D6.
Number 2.
That's how they were raised. So, an ugly, cautious person from the city who loves to travel because that's how they were raised. Maybe their parents travelled around a bit.
Maybe they've
Who
got
knows?
merchant parents who did a lot of travelling.
Yeah. So, I think, as Hannah was saying, we could add a lot to this, but even with that basic sort of list that we've got on there, with a handful of D8s and a D6, we've still sort of generated 2 characters there, and there was plenty of sort of other options that could have been rolled.
Yeah, so when you have these extras who are just like a not at all fleshed out character, you just say, oh yeah, there's a drunk in the pub. You weren't thinking about it, but now one of the player characters want to talk to you, or wants to talk to that NPC. I can roll a few dice and have a bit of a background.
Yeah, so I think that's been reasonably successful, and hopefully that's given you a bit of an insight how we put together some of our random tables. We'll get this written up, and it'll either be included with the episode on the blog, or it'll be a separate blog post, depending on when we get time to do it. But either way, we hope you've got something out of the episode.
Yeah, and if anybody's got stuff that they'd like to add to these charts, do send it to us and we'll add it onto it at some point, although whether it's on the first publishing is another matter.
Indeed. So we hope you've enjoyed this episode. If you want to get in touch with us, you can leave a voicemail message on SpeakPipe. There'll be a link in the show description. Or you can send us an email to rddrpgpodcast@gmail.com. Until we see you next time, take care, stay safe, and happy gaming.
Bye! There's the intro music.